The non-consent agenda?
Do you want to talk about what happened?
Go ahead.
So you're the chair.
Okay, so, what do you want me?
At our case review committee meeting, the three of us talked about these non-consent agenda cases. We found after much discussion that we didn't think they were complete, that the investigations were complete, and therefore felt like we couldn't vote on them to bring them into the consent agenda cases. And so Director Harness believes that that requires us to put it on the non-consent agenda and then open it to a vote of the board about what to do with these cases. It's our proposal as a committee that they be sent back to the staff to be completed, and we were very specific in our committee meeting about what we felt was incomplete. Okay. So that information exists, and I make a motion that that the board send the non-consent agenda items listed here back to the staff for investigative completion.
All three of these?
All A, B, C, D.
Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay. It's been motion second that we return in these items for more information, and all in favor?
May
Aye.
I be heard?
Sure.
I don't believe that the board has the ability nor the capacity to go beyond what my recommendation is at this point, based upon these cases, without having done an investigative file review.
Okay. I think the issue was that there was questions that needed to be answered on those, and I don't think, I think they were just basic questions that was being required.
Which normally
Can I
we
finish?
have you there.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I'm sorry.
So those are just basic questions. Can we get those questions answered and move this along? Okay. And we'll put it on the next
Chair Waits,
agenda.
I'm prepared to answer any questions that you might have about these cases.
Okay.
To substantiate what our recommendation is, or my recommendation is.
We can do it tonight, or we can move it on.
I'd like to ask, what do you think, board member? Because you were prepared to speak, right? Or do you want to?
I
It's not,
personally,
Okay.
let's,
we did this in the committee.
yeah, let's make a
I'm gonna have-
decision on whether we're answer the questions tonight or move it on and move these cases on.
Chair Waits, the topic is getting confused by the notion of answering the questions tonight.
Okay?
So we moved these cases, hold on, I thought we weren't going to do this, but let me just do it super quickly. We moved 238-18. We would like that was administratively closed. We thought that there were questions that warranted a full investigation. I'm motioning 238-18 back to the CPOA to conduct a full investigation as opposed to administratively closing that case. Would you like me to elaborate on why we want to move that case back?
We will be here all night. And we will redo the committee meeting we already
Right.
had.
I would submit that we shouldn't do that, but
Please.
Thank you, Chair Waits. The ordinance provides for three specific things in this instance. It says that the POB shall review the proposed findings and recommendations and shall by majority vote of members present approve the findings and recommendations as proposed, approve other findings and recommendations as determined by the POB and supported by the investigative file, or 3, defer action on the matter to allow for further investigation or analysis by the director. As part of its review, the full investigation file shall be made available to the POB. That is the ordinance. The CPOA policies and procedures that were in effect prior to the vote this evening, and I don't believe that they have changed, provide that in comport with the ordinance, generally the same information, which is, you all shall review the proposed findings and recommendations of the executive director, and by a majority vote of members present, 1, approve the findings and recommendations as proposed, 2, approve other findings and recommendations as the POB determines are supported by the investigation file, or 3, defer action on the matter to allow for further investigation or analysis by the executive director. I believe that the question is whether you are voting on item 1, item 2, or item 3. And I believe that if it is item 3, the deferring action pending further investigation or analysis, I believe would encompass the questions that the subcommittee has asked to be answered. So if that is what the questions are that are happening right now before the board, I hope that I answered them.
Okay.
Yes, that is exactly what we were asking for.
So-
And very specifically in our meeting, we have a copy of that meeting if you want to see it. Normally, Director Harness is at our meetings and we can ask these questions. He wasn't, he happened not to be at that meeting, and so we weren't able to do that. So we just have questions that were unanswered, that are legitimate questions, and that makes us think that it's not complete. So therefore, we want to send it back to the staff and complete them. And that's, number 3 is in fact what I was talking about.
So let's move it forward. Any other comment on that?
I'm just curious, what, normally, he would, the Director Harness would answer the questions at the CRC meeting, is that right? And since he wasn't present, those weren't answered. Could these not have been tabled until the next meeting at which he would be present, so that those can't?
That's what we were trying to do. We didn't put them on.
But I mean, that doesn't require further investigation. It just requires him to be present to answer the questions.
Without going through the whole meeting again, I can tell you there were things in there that we felt were not investigated at all. And so we were, there may be a reason for that, but we couldn't answer that question then. So our idea was to send them back to the staff. That's exactly what we were trying to do. We didn't put them on the non-consent agenda, Director Harness did. So they would not have shown up here on this agenda at all if it weren't up to us.
Any other comment?
Yeah, I think this is exactly why we have subcommittees, so that we don't have to do this at a board meeting. So if that's your recommendation, I support it fully.
Okay. So can we get a motion
I did
to
make a motion already.
defer? We have a motion to defer. A second.
I second the motion
All
to
in favor?
defer and return for further investigation.
Let's move forward. This will be deferred. Item 238-18, 246-18, and 228-17, okay?
And
then
and 132.18.
And 132-18 and 128-18.
And
And 144.
And
144-18, okay.